Yeah, my Taurus friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your October 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Taurus, I'm talking about Taurus rising as the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. I'm going to pull up the chart and let's jump right in. All righty. Okay, so here we are on October 1st on the eve of an eclipse. And we see that the main aspect that's taking place is Mars. Mars is right now having a very tense conversation and will continue to have a tense conversation with the sun and with Mercury. But at this moment, the sun and Mercury are conjunct the south node. This is in your sixth house of health, of your service to others, your employment. Potentially you're an employer. And this Mars energy is in your third house, which rules not only your everyday communications, the media that you read and absorb yourself in, but also your teammates, your workmates, your everyday sort of routine activities. Meaning, I run my kids to school and I run to the market. The third and the sixth house are naturally ruled by Mercury, being the third house naturally Gemini, and the sixth house naturally Virgo. So in this square that these two houses make, the third house can inadvertently miss details because it's moving quickly with short bits of information. And we have the sixth house, which is processing information. Now we overlay the energy of Cancer. Quit thinking about things, wanting to protect my home, but not necessarily getting all the information. And in many ways, potentially attempting to trust my gut about some information. But Mars is not comfortable in Cancer, it's in detriment. So those emotional messages, the emotional hits that Mars gets here is conflicting to Mars's processing it and thinking it through. And so here on the first day of the month, we're seeing that there's an opportunity to be egoless in how I'm thinking and processing things, because I really get to come from a gut level instinct. And in order to feel that, I've got to allow whatever frustrations or anger or discord to settle down in order to feel those subtle yearnings. I say this because the South Node in Libra is right now a point of where we're releasing something toxic, something that no longer serves me. The South Node also represents a habit of behavior, and the habit could be cooperative in thought or appearing to be cooperative in thought, and not it really not resonating with you on a deep level. Again, I want to offer this for my Tauruses. That sixth house has to do with your health. So if you're interacting with, say, a physician of some kind and their protocol, their advice is not resonating with you, this is an opportunity to be egoless to that authority figure as you allow your inner knowing to supersede potentially your brain at this moment. We also see that Mars is in a loose trine to Venus, and Venus is in a loose trine to Saturn, and Saturn is in a nice trine to Mars. So this is a grand trine. It's offering support for Mars as Mars trusts an inner knowing. That's Venus in Scorpio. Venus is not in her greatest power here, but what she is traveling through a sign that makes her aware of her insecurities, of where she feels vulnerable. And this could actually be of benefit to Mars, as Mars uses Saturn's history and Saturn's requiring you building a strong foundation, a strong relationship with your inner voice. That's going to be key moving forward. So I think here this Saturn is supporting this dynamic of Mars, and then Mars can go into this tense conversation with feeling a little bit more connected, is the way I want to say it. Now we go to the second, and at 4:26 a.m. Pacific time. Check my notes. Yes, 11:49. Pardon me, 11:49 Pacific time. We are going to have our final eclipse, where the sun and the moon come together in the dark of night to plant the seeds for a new beginning of some kind. Now, eclipses are new moons that have a much deeper and heavier weight to them, more influence to them, and they manifest anywhere from right away to over a 6-month period of time. So here, when we're planting the seeds in the sign of Libra at 10 degrees, we are looking to plant the seeds of awareness of our thoughts. Whenever you see a series of ones, the universe is giving you a sign that your thoughts are manifesting very quickly. Be sure that you are aligned to what you want to experience versus the opposite, your challenges. So we see the 10s representing that here, and then the 11th degree of Mercury. And just for giggles, we see here that Venus is at 11 degrees, Venus ruling our self-confidence and our self-worth, and swimming through the waters of Scorpio's deep psychological imprint. So this eclipse to me very much speaks to this planting the seeds for more diplomacy, more civility, more cooperation, more sense of flow in my partnerships, and also being aware that as I plant those seeds, to align my thoughts to those seeds. I speak words that confirm what I want to experience versus speaking words that conflict or are contrary to what I want to experience. So if for some reason, let's say money is an issue, the constant speaking of I have no money, I have no money, I have no money, it doesn't work. So here you can plant the seeds to feel a flow of resources. And this is also significant because it is in your 6th house of work, of your service to others. So I think that this is going to be a very powerful eclipse. Now we're going to go on to the 7th, where we will see Mars and Venus in their exact trine. I'm a little off on the time. We see that Mars is at 18 degrees, 18 minutes, and Venus is just about to be at 18 degrees. This, to me, this trine is very much about a flow between the yin and the yang, between the things, the way that my heart flows in loving others, and then the exchange of energy that money and intimacy flows over here. Venus in Scorpio. Scorpio rules sex, it rules money, it rules power, it rules control, it rules the kind of power where people know you so well or know your fears so well that they know how to manipulate you. But here there's a feeling of strength. 2 planets, both in their detriment, coming together to create a stronger dynamic. So here Venus gets to look at where her insecurities are. Mars gets to look at where he's a little bit hot and maybe not really emotive enough, and yet there can be balance created. And we still see that that's in trine to Saturn, while Saturn is just about at the end of its retrograde period, which will happen in November. We see that Pluto over here is also having a conversation. That conversation is with Neptune and Uranus. I've talked about that quite a bit. This is something that's going to go on for years. Pluto and Neptune will move in sextile for over a decade, and Pluto and Uranus will be in a trine aspect for like 5 years. And that really gives us an opportunity to connect with that deeper sense of self, the sense that the self that knows that it's an energetic being inhabiting a physical experience. And I think this is further supported by Pluto's trine to the south node. It's not necessarily making an aspect to the north node, but it is asking me to be egoless in this transformation. So here we see for our Tauruses, Capricorn is your 9th house of beliefs. It's also a house that represents a certain amount of social status, because we're talking about the idea of Capricorn. We're also talking about government control, rule. In the ninth house, we see the judicial system, we see religious beliefs. So many things could be coming up for you now for a final review as to whether or not they actually support the experience you want, because in a couple of days, Pluto is going to go direct, and then in November, it will move into your 10th house of career. You could have a real shift as a result of a shift in your belief system, supporting yourself more with your dreams and using your talents. And you could see over the next decade a real opportunity to expand. Whoops. Let's click off of Pluto and let's go to the ninth. When we go to the ninth, we're going to see Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter will retrograde until February 4th, 2025. This is in the sign of Gemini, which is your second house. The second house by nature represents your skills, literally your voice, your ability to speak on your own behalf, your singing voice. It represents your self-worth. Now we overlay that Gemini energy, which is also how you speak. Gemini energy is the speaking that you do in interacting with others. The Taurus energy of the voice is how you speak about yourself, to yourself. It is interlaced with your confidence. So Jupiter retrograding in this house is going to give you an opportunity to rethink your beliefs. It's also going to task you to find to find balance between broader concepts of things and then the detail it takes to implement those things. Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini. So we're looking at 3 planets right now, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, that are all in the opposite sign of their home. They're all the furthest away from where they feel comfortable. And so they're sort of being tasked to step up their game in their awareness of their habitual behaviors, thoughts, and actions. And this can be rather challenging for Jupiter right now because Jupiter cannot see what Venus has to offer over here. Jupiter can feel something or can potentially feel a cooperative component here in your 6th house between your sun and Mercury. So, and this is interesting because this is my everyday thoughts, that short bits of information. And then there's this broader concepts. And this trine aspect is bringing favor to that balance. But I think most of the focus for my Tauruses is here on your ruling planet, where you're getting an opportunity to truly transform your sense of self. But you can't see it, you can only feel it, or feel the rumblings of it or the beginnings of it coming into your awareness. Okay, now we go to the 11th, when Pluto will go direct. I'm not sure, this is late enough in the day. Now, let me go just a wee bit later in the day. Nope, not far enough. There we go. So now we see Pluto has gone direct. Pluto is at 29 degrees, 38 minutes. And I think this is very significant because the 29 reduces down to an 11 and the 38 reduces down to an 11. This is a restructuring of your thoughts and how you perceive your possibilities moving forward. The 9th house is with its Capricorn energy is about social status, about career, about public image. But the 9th house itself is about belief. It's about religion. It also has a sense of business and commerce. That's where we see branding, marketing, influencing, writing, and publishing. And so there's a real opportunity for you to look into those last little nooks and crannies of if there's any fears or any doubts or trepidations, because as Pluto moves into your 7th house of partnerships, both intimate contractual partnerships and professional contractual partnerships. It's also the house that rules the diplomacy, the peace, the civility, the sense of fairness. And here, this is your unique expression. Your genius lies within this house of Aquarius for you. So this is a very powerful last few weeks. Maybe I think we've got 5 weeks. It'll be November 19th when Pluto actually moves into Aquarius and resides there until 2043. So it's a pivotal time to be aware. And the 29 degrees, 38 minutes will, in and of itself, be sort of a stationed degree where Pluto will take time to ramp up before moving forward. So this is going to really emphasize that deep psychology that sits within. Pluto representing that psychology, and then the degrees representing it as well. On the 13th, we will see Mercury enter Scorpio. And this is where Mercury starts to have a conjunction with a point called the Shapley attractor. The Shapley attractor is within the Shapley cluster and represents at 2 degrees of Scorpio. It represents a place where we have an opportunity to release false attachments. And here, I think this is false attachments to mercurial things, false attachments to disempowerment, or the words that reflect that, or the thoughts that reflect that. We see that at the same time as Mercury is entering Scorpio and approaching that 2 degrees of Scorpio, that Shapley attractor, the sun on this day is making an opposition to Chiron. And I think this is important because this is an opportunity for you to reconcile some sort of wound, meaning Taurus energy, Aries is going to be your 12th house. So this is a wound of the self. Not being able to assert the self, not feeling the self being seen in some way, even the self potentially undermining the bigger picture. Now, the sun in its opposition could be saying, well, I can't express myself because my wound will not let me. I'm not allowed to speak out of turn, or, I want to appear to be cooperative with my teammates, the environment of my 6th house. It could even be where an authority like a doctor or a boss or a professional of some kind tells you something that is contrary to what you think on the inside or how you feel about something. Chiron was the healer. Chiron knew about herbs and all sorts of ways to use the earth to rebalance the physical. So here, there could very well be a potential where there's a push-pull between what the inner knowing is telling you and what the outer is telling you. And your bravery to assert your inner knowing will bring really, really beautiful results, but it may take a little while to actually see those results. Let's go to the 17th, where we're going to see a full moon at 24 degrees of Aries. That's going to happen at 4:26 a.m. And I think this is really powerful because this moon is conjunct Chiron, and we know that in a full moon that the moon is actually reflecting the light of the sun. So there is something that will be illuminated for you that will allow you to reconcile a part of yourself. And more than likely, Taurus, it'll be an emotional part of yourself. Momentarily, within a few hours, the moon will move into your 1st house. And that could even spawn you into deeper levels of trusting your intuitive talents and gifts, and your inner voice, being aligned to your inner voice's awareness of your inner voice's a message to you. We also see a nice aspect during this moon between Jupiter and the sun. There's a trine here, and the sun happens to be on Spica, which is the fixed star. Spica is considered the voice of angels, and it's a very fortuitous point in the sign of Libra. It's at 23, I think 55 or something similar, or right around there. So what we're seeing is the sun on the voice of angels in a very beautiful conversation with the planet that rules the house that connects to the divine. Now, again, Jupiter is not in favor here. It's in a challenging position, being in detriment and being retrograde, having to review the tiny details of things. But Jupiter is also a world traveler and wants to understand different cultures and different things and to experience them. And here Jupiter experiences the valley of the human experience, where we're living in the everyday world. We're not living in a castle here in Gemini. We're living in the valley, with the regular people doing regular things that we do, going to the market and getting gas and picking up our kids from school. So this full moon is going to illuminate something in your belief system. It could very well bring an inspiration that feels like it's from the divine. And it might even give you a direction, a feeling of new direction because of this illumination. Meaning whatever comes into your awareness lights a path for you. Okay, let's move on to, one other thing I wanted to mention. I'm sorry. We do see that during this full moon that the sun is making a square both to Pluto and to Mars. Mars and Pluto are in a loose opposition. That opposition will get tighter as we move through the month. But this is where I believe we're starting to feel, if we think about Cancer representing the home and Capricorn representing government, and then the focal point being the sun in Libra, diplomacy, you could very well find yourself very challenged about how you're processing, the idea of home and hearth versus career and social status and what is most important to you moving forward. It could also very well have you, we're 2-3 weeks away from the United States presidential election, so this could have a lot to do with outside environmental factors coming into your awareness at this time, that you may end up finding yourself changing your mind about some things that you didn't think you would, because information comes into your awareness that wasn't there before. That's just the way I'm going to put it. All right. Now let's go over to the 18th. Venus will have moved into Sagittarius. She's much happier here in Sagittarius. She starts to feel her fire. She starts to feel a sense of her mojo coming back. She's more curious here in Sagittarius, and she's heading towards the great attractor. So that's going to be nice. The feelings of Venus is going to feel a little bit more inspired now. So we might feel that foreboding or insecurity lifting. Because when she was in your 7th house, she could have made you very uncomfortable about a lot of the interactions you're having with your intimate partners. And this could, when I say intimate partners, we have this little joke when you're an admin, we refer to, my day husband or my day wife, my work husband. You could find that as your 6th house was previously lit up, now as Venus has moved through the 7th house, she's got some plans and she's going places. That's where I'm going to say with that. All right. Now we go to the 22nd, where the sun will move into Scorpio. Go a little later in the day. I don't know if that's going to be late enough, but let me see. Not quite late enough. Let's go till 2 o'clock. Sorry. Should check these things before I do the video. Oh, geez, Louise. All right, we're, for all intents and purposes, we'll just move to the 23rd. Here we see the sun is at 0 degrees of Scorpio, and the sun is coming up on this point in the Shapley cluster. We saw it with Venus and then Mercury, and now the sun is going to reach that 2 degrees of Scorpio. That Shapley attractor asking me to release false attachments that do not serve my greater picture of what I want for myself and disempower me, that take my talents and my skills and that dumbs them down. And this is going to feel a little uncomfortable because of the square it's making to Pluto. And we see a square here to the moon, but I actually think, oops, my goodness, you'd think after all this time I would know how to do this better. We also are feeling a loose square with Mars, because Mars is still in this tense aspect. So there's going to be an opportunity for you, Taurus, to start to look at things in how do my relationships, the people I interact with, how do they foster a sense of peace and security for me? Or am I inadvertently, picking up the lion's share of the work, or should we say, carrying it on the bull's back, and things have not been really fair? Because if indeed you come to that conclusion, then we could see some of the transits bringing opportunities to shift that lack of balance. And that will be coming up later in the year, and the eclipse could also illuminate that. Now let's go over to the 25th, and we're going to see that Venus is in a square to Saturn. This is going to grow tighter as the month progresses. Saturn is starting to station. Saturn's going to go back to 12 degrees before it moves forward again. So this is getting stronger. And the tension here is that Venus has big ideas. Venus is all over. She's about to approach the great attractor, and she feels excited to me. She feels excited because we've got the nodal structure complementing her right now. So she feels as if she's got a little bit of her mojo, but it's important to put structure in. And that structure is the connection to the angelic realm, to your team, to your guides, to the universe at large. I always think that if I want something to manifest quickly, I should sit down and tell the universe how excited I am about it before I start the endeavor. And when I do that with any kind of real intention and emotion behind it, I find that the results are so much more powerful. So this is the square. Here is the tension that Venus wants to move. She wants to get on with it. And Saturn's going, let's just slow down a minute and connect really with our deeper truth. And especially when it comes to creativity. Because when people are creating something for an audience, it's a slippery slope. But when you're creating something that you love within yourself, it will attract the audience that vibrates with it. So I think that's really powerful. And let's go just now to the end of the month. And here we see that we have, quite a few trines going on. We see a lot of blue lines. We have the opposition between Mars and Pluto, and I believe that that's going to play out on out loud, meaning I think that we're going to see information coming across the media that will illuminate the tensions between Pluto and Mars right now, because Pluto is up in that, authoritative governmental position. And here is Mars wanting to enjoy home and be free of worry, free of concern that there are things that are not aligned moving forward. So this feels a little rough. We also see that there is a bit of a tense aspect. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it must have been the moon. Okay. The moon here at this time is having a tense aspect to both Pluto and Mars. So there could be it could be an emotional day. You may not be able to feel a sense of security so much. We've got a half square here. Now the sun is in play here, but this little, I guess we're going to be having a new moon again very quickly, in a matter of hours. But where I'm going with this is that when you're aware of your emotions, the moon right now is on that Shapley attractor of releasing false attachments. And the square could be, but I can't release my job or my governmental, regulations and authorities. I have to wear a mask when I go into the market. These are the kind of restrictions I'm talking about. And Mars doesn't want any of that anymore. Mars is like, let me be free in my home. Let me do me. Let me focus on what's important to me. So the end of the month is going to end with this strong bit of stress. The other planets are a little bit more cooperative with one another. And we are just 6 days away from the presidential election. And at that point, we're going to see Uranus really coming into play here. And this is in your first house. Uranus is going to, in its retrograde, be bringing something completely unexpected. But we'll talk about that more when we get to November. All right, so that's it for the month of October for my Taurus babies. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'll be back next month with your November forecast. So I hope you will like, subscribe, share the video, come back each week because we do a live on Sunday mornings where we look at the transits and then we get the angels' advice for traversing those transits. And everybody gets a reading. All right, I'll see you in November. Have a lovely October, Taurus. Bye-bye.